What is going on, everybody? Elliot here from Movie Files, and it is, as Vecna would say, it's time. It is time to discuss, to break down the most recent events that shook out in Stranger Things Season 4, Volume 2. And I'm not by myself. I do have a discussion I'm bringing here in a second. But before we get into today's discussion, again, this isn't a live stream, by the way. This is pre-recorded, so I will be putting this out probably a day or so over the weekend, just in case you all haven't gotten a chance to see the episode. But I will be joining you all in the live premiere chat, just to kind of talk to you all about what's going on in this season and all the good, the bad, and everything in between. So before we get into the discussion again, I appreciate you all watching this video. If you can do me a favor, like, share, comment in the live chat, comment in the replay, in the comment section. Of course, if you're not subscribed, subscribe to my channel, subscribe to my guest's channel as well. We both greatly appreciate it. With all that being said, so excited to have her on. I had her on the channel it's been about a month ago. We talked about Atlanta. We talked offline about Stranger Things, but now this is our first time formally talking about the show on camera, and I'm very excited to have her on. I'm talking about the one and only Tyra from Struggle Reviews. What's going on?
Hi, Elliot. Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. You know, again, we got a chance to talk about it last month when they premiered Volume 1, and we were chatting offline, and you loved the first half like I did, being a horror fan, Freddy Krueger making an appearance, Robert Englund, and all the different stuff. But now it's time. It is time. We got our second volume, and before we kind of really dive deep into it, I guess, what was your anticipation level going into the second half? As far as, was the bar like all the way up here considering how good the first 7 episodes are, or were you just like, you know what, I'm gonna take it as it is?
Nope, my bar was like up here.
Super high. Yeah.
My bar was super duper high. I was anticipating so much because I feel like it started off so well.
Oh
man, I was like I was waiting. I think we were all just like counting down the days, like, oh, that volume 2 is coming, especially when we saw that it wasn't just going to be the normal timed episodes and we were going to get,
movie quality.
Movies.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, movies. I was like, all right. So I was really ready for this.
I'm same there with you. And before we dive deeper into it, again, guys, this is Tyra, Struggle Reviews, great content creator, great individual. And before we get into the discussion, Tyra, why don't you let the people know where they can find your content and what is exactly you do on your platform?
Oh, man, I do a lot. Yes, this is Struggle Reviews TV. Let's see. I do a little bit of everything, but I mostly specialize in throwbacks. Most of the time, I have my audience come request and pay for what they would like to see. And I discuss movies that we love, and we go back and take an in-depth look at it. And it's always fun. I do a couple of skits in the beginning, depending on how good the movie was and where I am at that moment. But I also do contemporary things, like I just discussed Black Phone and a couple of things, documentaries. It's all around just gumbo pot on my channel, and it's a good time. So come on by.
Good time is definitely the way I would describe it, because to your point, I love, especially when you do a lot of throwback reviews, and you're when you see a movie for the first time and then you see it 10 years, 15 years later, it's such a different perspective. You're a different person now. You have a different way on life. So I love that kind of going back and seeing if it holds up. Some of them, because I've seen a lot of your reviews, some of them do. And sometimes you appreciate them more, and some of them like, woo, yeah, I like that back in the day. What were they thinking? But guys, you heard her. She does not only throwback reviews, but she covers a lot of the new content. Her links is in the description of this video, as well as her, like she mentioned, if you wanted her to do a review of a throwback favorite film of yours, she has her Cash App in the description as well, and on the little ticker here that we have on the screen. So very excited to have you on, Tyra. And to back up what you were just saying, I was in the same boat with you as far as those first episodes. To me, those first 7 episodes, because we were gone. We were gone for 3 years, 3.5 years, or whatnot. You kind of lose momentum. And since Stranger Things was last on, I mean, we got plethora of streaming services, HBO, Hulu, and you get consumed with so much other things. And you kind of forget, how good the show was. So coming back and hitting us with those first 7 episodes, like you said, they were fantastic. So anticipation for me was kind of like Game of Thrones final season. I think that's the last time I was like that excited for a TV show to come back from its long break. And I guess the first question I have for you, Tyra, did it deliver in these final 2 episodes for you?
No.
Oh, okay. Do you care? We're going to dive into the episodes, but what was it exactly that you can pinpoint maybe some things that maybe didn't stick the landing for you?
Man, I know when I'm not invested in something. When I hit the phone scroll and I'm like, like I know where my momentum is in my investment, because most of the time I'm not that person, because I don't want to miss anything. And my phone, everything, everybody be quiet, leave me alone. I was like, And so I was so disappointed, and I like caught myself off guard. I was like, "What are you doing on your phone? This is what we've been waiting on."
Yeah.
And I just felt like it was a lot of time wasted, and
Mm.
we didn't need this to be, though I love that they did try to deliver and give us pretty much movies in the end.
Right.
I
A
felt
cinematic
like
type of
it, yeah,
experience.
it
Yeah.
ran on for so long, and they didn't really have anything substantial to have it run on for that long, and I started to like slowly lose interest. And I
Mm.
feel like maybe until that last episode, maybe the last 30 minutes is where we got like what we were waiting on, and in
Yeah.
between there, it just felt like a whole lot of filler. And I was
Mm.
honestly really disappointed.
You know, I share a similar sentiment with you on my first viewing. And by the way, and I would love to know what your experience of watching it. I did that, and this is I'd never do this. The 2 a.m. stay up late to watch a show premiere. I did that with this show just because number one, I was very excited as we talked about. But number two, you as you know, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, you name it, you can just and accidentally, I understand when some people say you click on a video, like why would you click on a spoiler review type of content? But normally now you can just be scrolling on Twitter,
Yeah.
minding your business, and boom, there's a spoiler. So I wanted to avoid that, but I stayed up, did the 2 a.m. thing. And to your point, I was very like, especially episode 8, which we'll talk about here. I was like, whoa, what, where are we going? And we spent so much time with a particular set of characters, the California crew, which I'm not the biggest fan of, which we'll talk
Yeah.
about. And also Russia wasn't all that interesting. The thing that saved episode 8 to me was definitely L, which we'll dive into. But I was very much in the same boat with you. It was like, I feel a little underwhelmed, to say the least.
Mhm.
Then I rewatched it last night, and I think I come to appreciate it more. It's not my, it didn't all the way deliver, but I came to appreciate what they were trying to give us in these final 2 episodes. But so I definitely, and I don't know, have you gotten a chance to revisit it since watching it for the first time?
Yeah, before,
Yeah,
right, actually this morning I watched it before we
rewatched
got
it.
on here just
Yeah,
to see if I could, have a fresh perspective. And I was like,
nothing.
yeah.
Still the same. Well, hey, maybe by the end of this discussion, maybe things will change. Maybe we'll get better. Maybe get worse. Maybe we were at the same. But jumping right into episode 8, which was titled Papa. Episode 8, Papa here. Starting off with you in regards to Nancy. We open the episode with her going into this vision, going into Vecna's mind, and he's pretty much and at first I'm like, why do villains do this? Why are they telling the person their whole game plan? But then thinking about it again, I'm like, well, this was part of his game plan because he knows who Nancy is. He knows his crew, Scooby-Doo crew, never gives up. So this was going to accelerate his plan to get, obviously, we know in episode 9 to get Max to be that fourth victim, four clocks,
Mhm.
4 ticks. It was all part of his plan. But she sees the vision that ultimately came true in regards to Hawkins being destroyed. So immediately just kind of jumping into this first moment here, what did you think about kind of getting back into things? And were you surprised that Vecna let her go? Because I thought it was going to be like a rescue mission to get Nancy out of
Mhm.
his escape mindset.
Well, I was surprised because it was the whole like deliver this mess, and I was like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting us to kind of go on a journey with Nancy, kind of how we
Right.
went on with Max before,
Mm-hmm.
but that was a bit different. But I did appreciate it. I like the whole. It just really gives me Nightmare on Elm Street, and I love it. The
Yes.
whole the illusions and the dream sequences and the chase. I love it all. The homage that they pay in the show towards
Oh
all
yeah.
the loving 80s horror nostalgic. I appreciate it to no end for that.
Yep.
But I like the way that it was executed. And any time that we get with Vecna on screen is a good time.
We'll get into like a ranking or maybe particular characters that stood out to me, but I'll just say it now. Yeah, Vecna, easily one of my favorite villains, not only on this show, but just kind of in TV this year. He really delivered on all fronts. There was never a point in time when he was on screen, and that goes for Henry slash Peter slash one,
Yeah.
that actor Jamie, and even the little kid that played him, that was like really spot on characteristics. And like you said, the Freddy Cougar all day. And that's one of my Michael. Michael's still that's my number one slash, but under him is Freddy. And I'm a big
Mhm.
fan of what Freddy brings to the horror genre. And I love the, like you said, the homage they gave to Vecna's character. But again, he lets Nancy go. They go on. She makes the game plan. And just one of the first conversations that I want to have with you, Tyra, in regards to just kind of relationships that we get in these final 2 episodes. The whole Steve, Nancy, Jonathan triangle. Are you here for it? Do you feel like it's a little bit forced? Is it a little bit too little, too late? How are you feeling about this relationship between these two characters? And is this something you want to see continued on in season 5?
I'm over it, honestly. I am completely over it. I think I was pretty much over it last season, and I thought she pretty much made her decision, and everybody knew what it was. I actually
Yeah,
thought going into this season, we thought I thought Steve would get a new love interest, and because you kind of see
same.
he's kind of on the prowl that
Hmm.
first one and
Hmm.
two episodes. But I thought we were gonna go that route. But to see them kind of go back and forth and in the end get to see the decision that she actually made when we got this whole just they forced them so much to bring them back together here in these past few episodes. So just to kind of see it go kaput and it's just like, damn, she still don't want you. We still fronting and acting like this isn't what it is. And
Yeah.
it's like we're gonna go into another season with this whole love triangle when it was very present that they didn't want to be together. It was kind of like Nancy and they were trying to break up with each other, kind of,
For
working their way
no,
around,
yeah,
like
yeah.
like, I don't know how to say this, but I don't know if I want to be together moving forward. And there's that whole aspect of him going to school and if he got in. And I was like, oh
Lying
man,
about it.
we're really gonna do this. I'm over it. I don't care anymore.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat with you. I don't know if the show and even the actors come out and say he's very aware that the show's kind of put his character, Jonathan's character, on the back burner, and I think
Yeah.
with that, unfortunately, drags down Nancy's storyline, and then they try
Mhm.
to supplement it with getting Steve back into the mix, and I don't think it's I don't think it's mixing well. I think to your
No.
point, it just feels a bit forced at this moment. And again, I don't think, and it shows like this, not everyone has to be in love. Like some
No.
characters can just be themselves, learn themselves. Steve's a young man. He can find love later on. He's talking about a family. What is he, 17, 18, 19 years old? Like, again, I
That's
know it's the
right.
80s. Times were
Uh,
different back then. It was the whole nuclear family still mindset of you have to have kids by a certain time. You got to have the white
mm,
picket fence. I get all that, but it just feels forced, like you said.
no. I
And yeah,
actually, oh, I'm sorry.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I actually prefer, even when I love even the fact that little chase she had with Vecna, he was calling her Nancy and I was getting Nancy.
Oh, yeah.
And I really
Nancy.
prefer with her name Nancy, I always kind of get the Nancy Drew vibe. I love when she
Yeah.
just, goes the news route and she's investigating and
Yep.
collecting. I like when she's Nancy Drew. I actually prefer that storyline for her. And she's being, just that big sister and they come
Mhm.
together. And it's just like, wow, Nancy, you got guns in the house? What the hell? You got guns? Yeah, I have guns. I like those, those she warrior aspects of
I
Nancy,
agree.
not this whole,
Love
love
Trent,
triangle
yeah.
dynamic. Yeah.
Very tropey. Again, I understand that they wanna have that, and there's a whole sector of fandom that ship characters, that love characters being with each other and loving each other, breaking up. I understand there's a group of people that love those type of stories, but sometimes I think shows like this can elevate over expectations like that of just forcing relationships just for the sake of, those type of fandoms, but we'll see what comes of it season 5 because apparently it's gonna be a time jump. So hell, we go to season 5 and maybe Nancy and and Steve will have that 6 kids as far as however long they fast forward. But there's a conversation that's been speculating online, and this is the scene I'm referring to in regards to Max and Lucas, who, by the way, I'm just saying now they stole this back half of the show. And shout out to Lucas because he was my favorite character in season 1.
Oh,
Season 2 and 3, he was definitely kind of in the same vein as Jonathan, kind of like just a boyfriend. He just wanted to be with Max, and there wasn't anything
yeah.
else to his character. But man, they were great. But it was a conversation that he has with her in the back of the truck because at this point, she says she wants to go ahead and do the plan. She wants to defeat Vecna, go back into his mind. But he brings up the Kelly. Are you familiar with the Miss Kelly theory out there, Tyra, in regards to the guidance counselor?
Yes.
Is there anything else to that you think in season 5 as far as that connection that all the students that because he could have picked anyone, Vecna could
Yeah.
have picked anyone in town because everyone, it wasn't just those 4
Yeah.
people that he killed that has trauma and all that stuff.
Hmm.
Do you think there's some validity to that being resolved or bringing that conversation back up in season 5 with Miss Kelly being connected to Vecna, relationship wise, knew each other in the past, Vecna's cult? Do you think there's any validity to that theory?
I considered it at first, but once we get into Vecna's background and how he was kind of pretty much placed into captivity
Mhm.
immediately,
Yeah.
I kind of deaded those ideas because I was like, when would he have the time to do that?
Yeah. And that's another thing too. I always with movies and shows like that, I wonder like why now is always a big question I have. Like why didn't Vecna do? I know obviously he tells us in this episode when he's talking to 11 or episode 9 that he's been there since season 1. But I
Yeah.
just wonder because we obviously I think there's a between season 3 and this season 4, I think they said it's officially 6 months difference. But I'm just always curious on why did Vecna choose to do these plans at this exact
This
moment and
time.
not, yeah. So I'm wondering if, again, if that ties into anything as far as season 5 and all that stuff. But going into our Hawkins crew, they go to the gun store. Jason, I don't know if there was a more annoying character. And shout out
Oh,
to the actor. He did his thing because that was the purpose of his character was to annoy you, to hate him, and he definitely did so. Thoughts on Jason going to the gun store and the confrontation he has with Nancy and them going on the, getting everything set up for Vecna.
I absolutely hated the
Oh
introduction
my
of his
goodness.
character. Like, I I kind of had a problem with how big the show decided to get later on. I really loved those 1 and 2 seasons when it was just so centered around
More
the
intimate,
people
yeah.
that we know, and it
Yeah.
was just like they went out of their way to not only introduce a Jason, but we got so many new characters in the show,
Yeah.
and when we get into the ladder of his character and the purpose that he actually served, like the aspect of the cult, and I'm like, they're playing Dungeons and Dragons, like just stop it. I guess they did their job because I really hated his character, but
Yeah.
in the end, I
Yeah.
was like, was he really absolutely necessary? When we had him pull that gun, I
I'm
was
like,
I was
yeah, like, dude.
I was over it. I was absolutely over it. He's just kind of just absolutely stir crazy. And his gang, I'm gonna say gang, because at first it was
It
like,
was,
oh, the
yeah.
homeboys, oh, we have a vendetta. We're
Uh,
trying to investigate this murder. He tried to have this
yep.
whole Scooby Doo ass situation,
Yep.
but it turned into a whole gang. They just like got instantly corrupt. I was, I was over it. He was a whole fucking bandit.
Oh yeah, Jason was on another level. He was, we talked about Freddy Krueger. He was our crew's like literally Jason Voorhees. He was just a teenage version that can talk of him. He was very annoying, but he got his come episode 9. But
Oh,
yeah, I totally agree with you in regards to the scope and scale. And there's always things with these type of shows get bigger, introduce more characters. Some characters are only used to just be plot devices, and I think Jason, to I understand what his character was meant to be, as you just mentioned. It's the 80s and stir crazy, and I know I wasn't born during the 80s, but I know there was a craze of like, and they still do this now. Certain
yeah,
rock metal music and watching certain things influences the youth and things of that
yeah.
nature.
You're evil.
Um, you're evil. You're right. If you don't go to church every Sunday, you're a devil worshiper. So I understand all that stuff, but it did kind of get a little drawn out. Because at
Yeah.
first I thought it was going. I didn't know if they were going to go maybe a Steve Harrington route, because he did
Yes.
have that moment when he was
Yes.
like, he saw his friend get killed. He literally saw his friend so I thought at a point he was going to maybe get
Yes.
on their side, but he stayed
Totally.
evil to the truth. So, and he, like I said, he got his at the end. But before we jump into the Russia plot here, we do get a couple more. And this is when I knew someone was going to die. And we all kind of speculated that. And even the Duffer Brothers came out and said it. But when you got characters doing moments like this,
Ugh.
and saying there, never change and continue to be who you are. And of course, the brother and sister moment, and even,
Mhm.
Steve and Robin talking. I mean, at that point, Tyra, I mean, this is a death wish. All these characters are just writing their obituaries in this moment.
Honestly, I thought with how, because we literally had Max gear up to like walk into her own death this
Oh yeah,
this test. Like I'm just
literally.
ready.
Yeah,
It was almost like she had given up and she had accepted her
yeah.
fate, and it's like it is what it is. I was honestly anticipating Max dying, and I was
Hmm.
ready to go into the new season. I was like, all right, Eddie Munson, I'm liking the energy you bring in. I can't wait to see you. I was like, yeah, because
Yep.
Steve's gonna get him, a little girlfriend. He is growing up, but he
Yeah.
has this new hellfire ass connection with Dustin. And I was like, they're
Hmm.
gonna go in and team up, and we're gonna get some of that brotherly love, that energy, that thing that we love from him and Steve.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. They killed that shit right away. When I tell you, I was so sad. I was so
we
sad. Like,
That would
why?
be a
This was
whole section of our discussion a little bit later when we get to episode 9. That is the most heartbreaking death of Stranger Things, and maybe of recent memory as far as TV characters goes. They definitely built him up to give us that moment that broke all of our hearts. So we will definitely get to Eddie Munson later on. But Russia didn't really do, and this is when you mentioned earlier as far as the comeback episode, the Russia stuff. Really, the biggest thing that we got from when we go to Russia was that they discovered that the Russians obviously are experimenting on the upside down creatures. The mind flare particles are there. They managed to escape, only to come back to the prison, because Joyce comes up with the idea to go to the upside down. If they want to go to Hawkins, they can use that as a kind of a way to destroy the hive to help the kids. Which again,
Mhm.
Joyce, that, and then another character I feel like has really regressed over the past seasons is like Joyce. You know what your kids and your families went through these last 3 seasons. Her leaving her family to me was just very weird to me. But
Yes.
your thoughts on this Russia plot, which had, I guess, a payoff at episode 9. But what did you think about their implementing their story in this 8th episode? Did any of it work to you? Anything that stood out to you with the Russia plot in this 8th episode?
I love the Russia plot. Before these last episodes, I think the Russia plot was deaded for me once we had them. We had Joy infiltrate the camp and them kind of do this rescue mission. When my momentum was the highest was when we thought, hey, it was like you have a millichance of a second to get out of here. We have him makeshift breaking his own ankle, like the whole Shawshank
Which his ankle, by the
situation.
way, this man is Iron Man. Like his ankle.
I I love that in him actually getting away. Like the momentum
Yeah.
was there because there was a belief that he might not make it.
Yeah.
I love that, but for them to just kind of play on our intentions and kind of snatch that back and have us
Yeah.
go on this roller coaster ride, only to wind up back at the constant like it was just like, what was it all for? And I was like, in whose right? Joy leaving the family. I'm not even gonna get on that because I was like,
That
really,
was baffling
Joy?
to me. Yeah. I mean, now,
That was
Grant, I
crazy.
don't expect her to take her kids to Russia, but it was like not to even tell them where you're going and not to have an adult. I mean, Jonathan's smoking weed 24/7, not to have someone. It
Oh,
was very weird decision of her to leave her kids
that
that like that.
those were with them being so built up in those first 2 seasons for them to
Yeah.
try to, just kind of snatch at Joy's character, snatch at Jonathan's character, snatch at Will's character.
Well, the
It was
Byers
just
families
like,
is they're back burners. Yeah.
it was just terrible. And
Yeah.
I didn't. I was invested then. I
Yeah.
love when they did kind of switch it up and it was a whole plot and he decided to I forget the guy who flies the planes, the
Oh,
I forget his
Yuri.
name.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey. That guy,
yeah,
the
that whole,
traitor.
double crossing situation there,
Yeah.
that was even okay too. But
Yeah.
I didn't care for it after that. I was just like, let's get back. And in
Yeah.
whose right mind did you think, oh, well, us doing this is gonna help? Like, you guys know just how big that universe is. These little
Yeah.
demogorgons ain't gonna do nothing. But
Russia
yeah,
to me, yeah.
I felt like we would have gotten a better story if they had gotten back a little quicker, especially
Yeah.
with that momentum that we needed, because they do this thing in the show where there's always a moment where Elle needs to find that strength to get her
Yeah.
powers back and kick them into high gear,
Yeah.
and her Hobson's getting there and getting back, that would have been just the umph to get her there, because just having them, you're the heart. I was like, if y'all don't shut up, you can do it. We believe in you. That didn't do
Yeah.
anything for me. But him coming back and her hearing his voice, or just something
Oh, that
like
was such
that,
a
that
great
would have
moment.
been
Yeah.
such a great moment.
I agree. The Russia plot was so the worst plot we kind of talked about was the California stuff. Well, we're gonna get into California stuff actually here in a second. But the thing that saved Russia for me is, like as you said, Hopper saved that whole plot to me, because Joyce, again, she's just, and as you pointed out, the Byers family, which I'm starting to think, because the Byers family was the lead. I guess the big MacGuffin of season 1 and 2 was Fine Will. Season 2 was obviously Joyce saving her son from the ramifications of Will being an upside down. So they were, I guess, to be fair, that we did get a lot of Byer family stuff in the first 2 seasons, but in the last 3 and 4 definitely put a back burner, which makes me think that in season 5 they're going to probably bring them back into the forefront, especially Will. But yeah, Joyce, I didn't really care for this second half or the first half, but Hopper's story, him feeling like he's death. Everyone that he gets involved with dies. His, daughter, and that whole story of when he went to go fight and they have radioactive after effects, and he didn't want to have a
Yeah.
kid because of it. All that stuff worked for me. And
Mhm.
also, I'll say Murray, he grew on me. I wasn't always a Murray fan, but
I love
Murray, him
Murray.
in karate and fighting, and obviously the flamethrower in episode 9, those two elements to me really, really got me on board with the Russia plot. So I will say, and we'll talk about episode 9 with the sword and all that. That was pretty badass. But Russia was kind of indifferent, minus those two plots I just mentioned, as far as Murray and the
Yeah.
revelations that Hopper rediscovers himself. But
They
California,
definitely.
California love or lack of love is really the plot that I think was kind of the weakest. But we get a big moment, Tyra. We always speculate. Okay, what's this painting that Will has? What is it? Is it tied to the Demogorgon? Is it tied to Vecna? Is it his love to Mike? Is it something around their them growing up as kids? But we finally figure it out. It's essentially him pointing out that Mike, as you pointed out, the hero speech that he gives to Elle. You're the heart of the team. You're the leader of the team. This is us defeating evil. But it's in this moment too that he tells his best friend, he confesses his love. He confesses love to him, but he switches it up and puts himself, Mike, this is what you should say about, because at this point, Mike, whose character has really, out of all the characters, he's probably like the least cared about character for me at this point. He hypes his friend up and like, yeah, you might not have superpowers, but she loves you, you love her, you'll make it work. And obviously he gets his heart broken at that moment. Your thoughts on this relationship, Mike, Will, and this whole conversation going on as they're going to the Nina Project to save Elle?
First of all, they built that paint up a bit too much. I was expecting Mike to unroll that and it was going to be a whole Titanic Jack. I want you to paint me like one of your French girls ass moment. I thought that was what that was going to be. But I really do not like Will's plot. I do like them trying to go in depth and have him kind of conflicted. You can see that he is in love with his friend.
Yeah.
But if we were going to go this route and have him kind of be, because it's kind of like he's closed off because he's been hiding his sexuality this entire time. But it's like, why inflict that on Mike? I love their dynamic, their foursome, just the guys, the boys. And, of course, in the end, we introduced 11. I love that dynamic. I was like, why couldn't we do that with an outside character, or just have him conflicted in a way? I don't know what my friends or my brother or my mom is going to think of me. This is the 80s, if I come out and I confess, I think I might, prefer boys. And I would have been absolutely fine with that. And maybe, just progress into the next season with them going older and, him dealing with that's a whole nother can of worms. But just to kind of put that on Mike and have him be the one that he's longed for. I'm like, we've never gotten anything like that. Of course they've grown up, but we've never gotten anything like that before. So just to have it hit here, boom, and he's emotional and he's crying out the window. I was like, what? What?
It is so, and I think it was season 2 where Mike and Will are discussing, because I think obviously it was the summer where Mike, or it might have been season 3, I can't remember, but Mike was spending a lot of time with Elle, and Will was trying to get the gang back together, go back to when they were kids, D&D, let's have fun in the basement. It's like, no, man, we moved on. I got a girlfriend. It's not. I think he says it's not my fault you don't like girls. So to me, that was like a moment where Mike knows that his best friend is into boys, or that, he kind of understands that. But again, like you said, it does kind of feel like they're putting a lot of pressure on both characters, but in particular, it is like, and Mike, I will say, he seemed a little oblivious, even though I just say he seems to be aware of it, but he also seems to be very unaware of his friend's emotion. It's a weird, and again, I know they're teens and they're adults, but it is just a weird situation. I don't know how to really describe it, but being weird and not kind of undercooked as far as what they're doing with that plot.
Yeah, if they would just allow them to be teens and just grow, but they're so adamant about trying to make this, an episode of The Young and the Restless. You love me. I'm like, oh God. They just, they're trying to go really far and in depth, especially as far as his connection with Elle. It's just like, oh, what if she doesn't need me? And I'm like, you guys are still like little teeny boppers. Like, aren't you guys like relax?
Yeah, and I guess I'll give him that. It's been so long since I was a teen, but I do know from recollection when I was a teen, everything was on 11, right? Everything was on 1,000. This is the person I'm going to be with forever. You put all your efforts and all your eggs in one basket. So I guess that's what Mike's right now. He's just fully head over heels of not only Elle, but of course, this superpowered being individual. So we'll see what comes with this. I guess is another, a pseudo love triangle of a sorts with Mike, Will, and Elle, and we'll see if they'll.
Because we need another one, right?
We need another one. We need 2. We need multiples in this show. Who knows? Season 5. Maybe Joyce, Bob will come back, and that's going to shake up Joyce and Hopper's relationship. But going to what I think was probably the biggest revelation to me, and probably the best element of this 8th episode, because it definitely was a setup episode without a doubt. It wasn't, like you said, it wasn't a lot going on as far as the main stuff that we get in episode 9, but I think Millie Bobby Brown really got her moment to shine, and particularly get her closure with, as the episode is titled, Papa, her closure with Dr. Brenner. What did you think about this whole kind of revelation of since season one, his whole thing of working for the Russians, the Soviets, the US versus Russia thing. But in reality, it was him trying to find Henry because he wanted to go find him in the darkness and discover that, and using L as that vessel and that kind of compass to find his past mistakes. How do you think they handled that kind of plot in regards to the relationship between daughter and Papa?
I mean, it was kind of a double-edged sword because I was like, it's amazing how they've been able to tie a lot of things together from the very beginning of the show up until now, especially getting into a fourth season. But it was also like, a little stab in the side. It's like we've been through so much with Papa, and just like, don't try to give him any, not that it was
They
good, but any
tried, didn't they? A redemption story a little bit,
justification,
right?
any
Yeah, yeah,
redemption here. It's
yeah,
done. He's evil. We don't care. Like, I don't want any of that. But for them
yeah,
to kind of circle it back around, and it's just like, oh, all of these times you were looking for, your number one and trying to,
yeah,
go on this journey. And I was like, damn, but we've spent so much time, the Demogorgon, like
yeah,
that anticipation of what was going on. But it was, I I was really waiting for her to kill him, honestly,
yeah,
that entire time, because that he did, for the most part, have that really strong hold over her because she
yeah.
saw him as Papa and didn't see him for who he truly was. But
Right.
I was
The
just like,
monster.
let's stop talking. Like, we can't trust him. He's waiting for you to turn your back so you can stab him. Like, just
Yeah.
do some of that magic that we love so much and just
Yep.
kill his ass. Let's get it out of the way. I really felt like it was a cop out that it was her that didn't do the actual execution and he got shot. I was like, I wanted L to take his ass out. Honestly, I really did. But at least he's gone. But I did see, I guess in the end, how he felt like he was kind of trying to protect her, and that,
Yeah.
hey, you're not, which we knew. I think we knew in the pit of our stomach that with all the sorcery that Vecna had, all this power, she's not quite ready to, especially since he's been all of these
He's
things this
mastered
entire
this
time,
world. Yeah.
like the mind
Mm-hmm.
slayer, the everything. So
Yeah.
I'm like, you're not ready. And in the end, she
She
was,
really.
but she wasn't.
Yep. Yep.
But yeah, I appreciate it. I was happy to see him go, but I wish that it was her, because it was
Yeah.
almost like they were trying to redeem him. I'm like, he's non-redeemable.
It is and there's been talks about well, they did confirm there is a spinoff series, and no one knows what that is. I think the only actor, or the only person that knows, is Finn Wolfhard. He was the one that was able to figure it out. But they did, obviously, episode one, they explored Renner, right? They took us back to when he did have a kind of a heart, and he did show love for those kids, and obviously what 11 did, or that he thought he did. But obviously we find out in this episode that he knew that it wasn't 11. He saw the tape and he
Yeah,
saw that it was one.
whole time.
Complicated character, a gray area character, because in his mind, like you said, he thought that he was doing the right thing. Now, we don't know his backstory. We don't know how he was raised, if he was his father was absent or not there, or his mom. So we don't really know where that stems from. But it was a very complicated. The best villains are always the ones that justify their means and justify their actions. So it was a very
Mhm.
interesting dynamic. And I think I guess I'm glad Elle didn't kill him, because
Mhm.
it would have opened that conversation of her really kind of, I guess, being that monster that she's been labeled,
Mhm.
especially by this gentleman, who I assume will be a
uh,
pivotal character in season 5, as far as, he should have killed her when he had the opportunity to. Which another character too, I guess we'll get Owen come season 5, because we
yes.
really didn't get their like closure as far as
Closure.
like where they are, at the end of episode 8. But yeah, I'm intrigued to see this the ramification. And you mentioned that Brenner's died. Listen, we thought Brenner died in episode, in season 1. My man got shot in the heart, but hey,
He
he
better be
might
gone. He better be
he
gone.
might
I
have a
swear.
clone. They might rehabilitate. They might figure out some way somehow to bring this
No,
man back.
no, Elliot. I was literally sitting there because it was just like they kept panning the camera away and then they would turn. It was just like another breath and another breath. I was like, who's the fucking Terminator? Is
So
he
he's just
a
turning.
robot and
Eventually,
we
gonna
don't
get
know?
up and just start, running. Hey, I wouldn't. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what comes of this character. If there's any more meat on that bone, if there's any more revelations with this relationship. Number one, the mother. Like, I don't know if we're ever gonna get Elle's mother again. If she's gonna snap out of her, coma type of mindset. If there is any relationships that Brenner has out there, and Callie's out there. So I think there's gonna be something else to be said about, not directly if he's coming back, but there's something a family member maybe that he's been keeping under wraps. I think there's
Mm,
something still there with this character. We'll see if Papa some
yeah,
way somehow makes his way back into the
has to be
episode's
because
future.
I feel like he has a much higher motivation than what we think. So it has
Yeah.
to be something. I'm like, it was literally just you looking for number one this entire
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, there's I think there's more meat on that bone. But wrapping up this eighth episode before we tackle this giant 2.5 hour episode, we end with the heroes getting into war. Elle tells Mike and Will that they are in trouble, and obviously they don't have enough time to get back to Hawkins before the end of the world per se. And we see our team gearing up. Nancy and Steve and I love the shot here of our heroes going into the gates of hell, if you want to call it that. I ain't gonna lie, Tyler. Again, it was a lot of filler, some slow moments in the eighth episode. It was almost an hour and a half, but that last 15, 20 minutes really teed up that finale and kind of got me really, really hyped. How did you feel about how they concluded it before you went to the ninth episode? Did you feel that? Were you still on the phone at that point scrolling down? Were you like, all right, maybe we want to get into episode 9 and blow our socks off?
I put it down, just so I can see Papa go. I put it down for that.
Yeah, yeah,
I continue, to watch moving forward. I really was anticipating what was going to happen, especially with Max and them on. I didn't know where we were going because I was like, I thought they would come together as a group, not
yeah,
so much Elle and the California gang, but I
yeah,
thought
yeah,
Nancy and everybody would come together. So the fact that they weren't, I was like, oh, we're going to go into the next episode with them all kind of on their own separate ventures. So I was like, oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mm,
and also too, I will shout out the writers because I mentioned how I was so excited for this, like Game of Thrones, season 8 of Game of Thrones and 7. How characters would literally, it would normally in seasons 1 through 4, it would take from traveling like 4, 5, 6, 7 days, and but in season 7, 8, they were just there by in that same episode. So I'm glad that they didn't like somehow have the Californian crew make it to Hawkins in time or have them go from Russia to Hawkins in time. So I'm glad that
yeah.
they at least appreciated the
It-
geography of the situation and didn't just
yeah.
like, oh, they just magically
And
appeared.
she
So
there.
overall, would you say episode 8, if you were to rank it or to put a number on it, what would you say that episode left you before going into episode 9?
I would definitely be a 6.
A 6. Gotcha.
Yes.
I'm at it, and again, this is on the rewatch. I would give it a solid 7.5 is where I'm at with episode 8. Getting into again this huge, gigantic. When I first heard that it was 2.5 hours, I'm like, what? A 2.5 hour. I don't think, and let us know in the chat and let me know. Have you ever heard of a show, a finale being
No,
that long? I can't
no,
think of anything off top. Like I can't.
no,
I never watched MASH. I know that's
not
a,
at
a
all.
top tier. Sopranos, Game of
Yeah.
Thrones. That was in. Would you? A
No.
question I have for you before we get into it. Would you have paid to see this in theaters in IMAX?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, I
I
think so
would.
too.
For
I
for the
think so too.
climax and what we
Yeah,
got into and how big it got, I would love to have seen that on the big screen.
I
But
agree.
back in the day, we used to have, the to be continued or the part one of the series and the part two coming next week, but all in
Coming.
one?
Yeah.
No.
And as we get into this conversation, I will say, even though I did like how we ended things, and then you touched on it very earlier, it was a bit much as far as 2.5. It was kind of overwhelming to sit down and watch a show 2.5 hours. Again, we watch movies for 2.5 hours. We watch seasons, binge seasons. So, but it did feel like it was just. I think they could have put it into like episode 9, could have been split into episode 10.
Yeah.
But here we are, 2.5 hours. Let's just jump right into the Russia plot. Yuri, gets convinced by Enzo to do the plane, and again, that stuff to me was a little weird. We did
Mm,
get, Jim and Joyce finally, I guess, embraced. I think this is their first kiss, if I'm not mistaken. This is the first time that they actually embrace each other, which was cut off short due to the little phone call that came in. But what are you happy about Joyce and Hopper? This
I
relationship?
mean, yeah, I was kind of saying like, how long they gonna beat around this bush?
Yeah,
But I am looking forward to that. I'm so glad that they kind of closed off that chapter, and I guess we can go into the next season knowing that they will be together. Like I'm like, damn, they're never gonna have this date. But
yeah,
yeah, I did appreciate that. The whole plot with Yuri and kind of convincing. I was like, it would be more in his character to just get on that plane and leave their ass
yeah,
there, sell them
yeah.
out. Like that's what we've grown to expect. So to kind of have him come on around in the end, I was like, whatever, Yuri.
Now,
But
similar to, yeah, go ahead.
no, No, I did. I liked the whole the most I got out of that. I appreciated the standoff between Hopkins and Hopper in the Demogorgon.
Oh
I
my,
appreciated that. I like that, and
so
just
awesome.
just
Yeah,
that whole plan, because I was like, wait a minute, oh, we're gonna get him. I didn't like what they were there for, thinking that that little, drop of ink was gonna, make some grand scale difference. But granted, they didn't know the scale of what was going on
yeah,
in the. But I was just ready for them to get back at that point, because it just
yeah,
seems like it was going on forever. And I'm like, let's go. Let's get
yeah.
there.
Yeah, like you said again, the two things with this Russia plot, as you just mentioned, the Hopper sword, Excalibur taking out that Demogorgon was so dope, and seeing Murray with the flamethrower was really cool.
Ah,
Do we suspect Yuri and Enzo? Did they stay in America? Or do you think they went back to Russia? Do you think we'll get them in season
I
5?
definitely think Enzo would most definitely staying. Maybe not Yuri, because he's Russia at heart. He's all
Yeah,
for the
the
Russia.
the,
He
the
loves it.
Russia dollars.
But
Yeah, yeah,
I think Yuri, he was really coming around. Especially, I really love Yuri's character and the journey we got to go on with him. Just kind of being just, oh, he's here for the money. But he wound up really caring and really being
yeah,
a ally and really
yeah.
helping out. So I appreciated that.
I'm very curious to see, because I guess too they both do, because I think if I'm not mistaken, Yuri said he had a kid or a son or a family, and we
Mhm.
obviously know Enzo has a family. So I wonder if they will be still if they went back to Russia, and if so, will we be visiting Russia, because the particles, they're in Russia and those particles are still out there. Like they didn't wrap up that plot. They're still like the Demogorgons and all that stuff died with the hive, but the mind flare particles are still in Russia. So I wonder if there's going to be some type of remnants in us exploring Russia with those two characters in season 5. And again, there was a whole speculation about what does a spinoff show look like. I don't know if I would want to be in Russia with
No.
Yuri and Enzo for a whole new show, but that is something to be addressed if come season 5, if we just focus on them and what happened there. But getting into what's going on with Callie, the episode is named Piggyback, and the whole idea of this episode is she's going to tie herself into Max's mind, and she's going on this journey of her memories. We get to get a conversation between the two brothers of like, let's have the talk. If you need someone to talk to, I'm here for you, and all that stuff. There, did all the L memory stuff work for you, Tyra? Or was there some moments where you kind of felt like there was a little bit, again, kind of filler within this 2.5 hour episode?
Once she actually got there, I didn't mind when they're in, the dark realm and she's talking
Yeah.
to her, the whole out of body kind of experience. But when
Hmm.
she was like, I'm in a memory within a memory and I'm in a skate park, and I'm like, can we just get there? Like, I didn't so much love the journey. I was
Yeah.
really kind of over it. I was like, this is really, it just seems, and it was good stuff. And I was like, oh, this is
Yeah.
really interesting how she's going to use that to her advantage. We've never
Revenge.
seen
Yeah.
anything like this in the show. But for
Yep.
it to go on as long as it did, it kind of, they just kind of kept chipping away at certain things before I could, I got invested, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
that was cool. And it was like, okay, we cut to another scene and we go back. I'm still looking around. Like, I was like, hurry up.
I forgot to mention. I didn't mention the 8th episode, but now I'm thinking about it. Argyle, are you a fan of that character, the pizza, long-haired pineapple on pizza guy? Were you a fan of that character, or did he get a little bit overwhelming for you,
He got
Mr.
totally
Jokey?
overwhelming.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
was
yeah,
I was like, cool, them in their 80s references. I'm an
yeah,
80s movie fanatic. I was like,
yeah,
okay, we
yeah.
got the Fast Times at Richmond
Yep.
High,
Stoner
situation
101.
going,
Yep,
the
yep.
stoner, the surfer, the thing. And then it just kind of it got really old. I was
Got
like,
played out. It got played out.
yeah, I
Yeah.
was like, take him, not Eddie.
We'll take, Argyle to go ahead, throw in Jason, throw in
Yeah.
Angela in that mix, and we'll
Yeah,
just
it's
keep
just
all these characters
all we
safe.
got weed. Even them, going to pizza shop and do the things like, yeah, we got a joint, like all the
Yeah,
weed. I was like, they're taking a
yeah.
lot of liberties with the capacity of what weed is doing. Y'all got some potent stuff in the 80s, huh? Because everybody's just
I
delusional
guess
and
that's
going
it's
all off.
currency.
And
Weed is
uh,
currency in the 80s. No, definitely. Argyle, yeah, like you said, it was funny at first, and then it got a little bit played out for me. And again, I know some people love Argyle. Comedy's subjective to everyone, but I'm very in the same boat with you. It got very tiring. I didn't hate him. I wouldn't say that, but it was just like it's getting a little bit boring. And I wonder how he's gonna, if they bring him back for season 5, if there's gonna be, I guess, Susie too. Like did he like hook up, or not hook up, but he like
yeah,
had a little
they
relationship with
just
Susie's
dropped
sister.
that. Let
Yeah,
it.
I don't know if she's going to be a character. We'll see. A lot of things to explore in season 5. But again, the whole idea is the L goes into Max's memory, which brings us into the meat and potatoes of this episode, which is what's going on in Hawkins. And I think the stuff here of the setup of them going back to Hawkins, we got our team in the Upside Down, which consists of Steve, Nancy, Robin, Eddie, and our boy Dustin. Meanwhile, we have Erica, Lucas, and Max back in the human realm. And how did all that stuff kind of play out for you? Because as you mentioned, we were cutting between Russia, Hawkins, and everything going on in California. Did all that stuff mix in for you, or again, was it just kind of off-putting where we would have that high moments in Hawkins and maybe tie back to a low moment or a jokey moment in California? Did it all mix well for you?
It did not mix well for me. I was
Yeah.
like, where I was like, I literally didn't have any words because I wasn't even really sure what was going on because I'm like, okay, I know where Max is and them going to the house and what they're trying to do. I know their
Yeah.
agenda. And then we had Dustin and Eddie and the whole music. I was like, are we trying to I think it was the callback for the music to just, awake someone and, kind of
Yeah.
lure Vecna in and that whole thing. And the riff, I love the riff. The riff was bomb. But I was like, we got like a rock concert going on. I was
Mhm.
just waiting for when tensions got high. I thought that they they were going to come together, not so much Max, because
Mhm.
somebody had to be there with her. But I was expecting Eddie and Dunstan and Nancy to come together at some point and
Mhm.
help each other out. Or I thought we were going to go somewhere else with that, or maybe oh, we were going to do this, we're going to have this riff, and then we're going to go join Nancy and go like. I didn't understand, honestly. I was like, this is a little bit all over the place.
The plan and logic made sense, but then Max was very aware of this, and Nancy's aware of this from her past experience with the past seasons. When you encounter the Upside Down, especially so connected to Vecna, he knows what's going on. So like he knew what they were doing. So I thought it was just kind of like I almost thought that they shouldn't have let Max. It's should have had not let her know what they're like. Very similar to what they did with Will when they had to tie up Will and put him in the cabin so he didn't know his environment and whatnot. I
Yeah.
almost thought that they should have thought it out a little bit more to not give her all the details because obviously Vecna can tie it to and know exactly what her thoughts. He knows what's going to happen. So I thought it was a little
Yeah.
bit logical for them to lay out all their plans to Max because obviously Vecna can tie into it and know exactly what's going on. But putting that aside, I will say, even though the plan was a little bit flawed, the execution of what's going on with Max and Lucas, and again, when you write yourself a death note, TV 101, when you talk about a date night as they're talking before they get into the mix, I'm like, oh boy, it ain't gonna be no Friday date night, and so I will say the highlights to me is Lucas and Max. The stuff going on with them in this episode to me was just second to none. I can't applaud enough. Caleb, that young man did a fantastic job, especially when we see him
Oh,
transitioning over to Vecna and telling when we get this beautiful monologue from Max when she says that she did want her brother. She admitted she wanted Billy to die because all the torture he put her through growing up, but now she wants to be that pain. What did you think about their scenes and that emotion? Did that stuff work for you?
I loved it. We've seen them like physically grow up. Of course, we know that they're older, especially a little older than they're being portrayed here on the show. But
Mhm.
I just felt him like in my little heart, he grew like 2 inches taller in those scenes. I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, he grew so much. As he
Yep.
said, like for a minute, he's been there and been in the clique, but he's always kind of just played the side character, and he
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
developed a little bit more once he got a girlfriend. And then we, always out of everybody, he was more on that quest. So can we just be normal? Why we gotta go save the world? Can we just do
Yeah.
this?
That was
So
his whole
just to
thing in this
see
season.
him
Yeah. Hmm.
literally just come to age right there and just realize, what I have versus what I wanted, is more
Yes.
important. And he
Yep.
grew so much. I care so I didn't expect it. Like I've never been just like super invested in their relationship, their little
Yeah. Yeah.
childhood love. It was always
Yep.
really cute. But here I was like, oh, I'm just so invested. I want them to go on the date. And the
Yep.
emotion, the
Oh my
acting,
goodness.
the tears, the Max wing. I was like, oh girl, please don't leave
They
him.
deliver it. They
I was
delivered.
really invested, and I felt the heights that I felt, when we were running up that hill, like we wanted her to make it so bad. Like, side note, they like drug that Kate Bush running up that hill
Oh,
song.
K
They
Bishop is
just
okay. Bush is like, thank you, thank you,
oh,
thank you.
thank you so much.
Millions of
It's like
royalty checks
popular
coming
now.
in.
But
Yep.
I felt the same heights at that moment that I felt when she was running and they were waiting for her to come down once again. Like I was really invested, and I was hoping. I was honest, I was invested, but I was also prepared for Max not to make it in that moment, because
Yeah.
I just knew, like, I was like, this is it. We've been prepping for 2 episodes, really three, for Max to die.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh,
Yep.
this is going to be so hard. But when it actually happened and we saw it, I was like, oh, this is not what I thought was going to happen.
Yeah, they've been teeing this Max thing up, and I guess one of the things that we didn't really tie up was those letters she wrote to everyone. I don't know if they're going to read that in season 5, if because we'll talk about it at the end. But Elle couldn't find her. She's in a coma, but she's almost like brain dead because she couldn't even connect to her brain. So I wonder if those letters were played back. But they've been building that up since Dear Billy episode 4 of this season, and I thought, to your point, Tyra, those kids are fantastic. All the kids, but in particular, Caleb and the young lady that plays Max, Sadie
Sadie
Sink.
Sink.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they really gave them some meat, and they delivered, because those kids, it's a lot of pressure to bring those emotional scenes to the screen. I thought they, cinematically speaking, dramatically speaking, they delivered on every front. But Vecna, our good old pal Vecna, he's now, again, he's taken over. Meanwhile, we talked about it a little bit earlier, but Jason, bro, you are on another level. You pointing a gun at my man, a gun. And shout out to Lucas. He took that. He ran towards him and took that chance. And they're fighting back and forth and whatnot. But meanwhile, with fighting, in comes Vecna. He gets control of Max. And I thought that was a really cool concept. I'm a big sci-fi fiend. I love kind of Inception and all that different stuff. A dream within a dream, a memory. She's like jumping from good memories to good memories. I thought that stuff was pretty brilliant. He finds
Yeah.
her. Very, as you mentioned, Freddy Cougar. He finds her within the memory. She's at the snow, which I love. Again, you talked about their relationship. One of her best memories was when they was a kid in season 2, and they were at the snowball dance, and she goes there. The blood balloons are popping. I'm not gonna lie, I got very hyped when Elle came, and they use that card a lot when Elle comes out,
Oh
superhero
yeah.
moment. She comes from the
Like,
shadows,
yeah.
but it never gets old for
Move.
me. Yeah, I go, it never gets over me. I love when she comes in. She's holding my man up and turning her around. He's like, wait a minute. You're in Freddy Cougar. You're in my world. Like, I am the
My world
controller,
now,
master.
bitch.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Love that stuff, Tyra. Your thoughts on this standoff between these characters, and essentially this is round 2 between Vecna and
Mhm.
Elle.
I loved it. I was just waiting for him to take control, because we knew with all the buildup, round 2 was not going to be anything like round 1. And we kind of already knew that Elle just kind of overexerted herself in that moment. Like, yeah, move, step to the side. Like, I got this. I'm going to execute this the same way. Like, no, you know how much time has went by. I think she underestimated how much time he's had to sit and fiddle with his thumbs
Yeah.
and
Yep.
just plot and go
Master his
like,
craft.
yes, this has
Yeah.
been him this entire time. And that just goes to
Mm-hmm.
show just how much power he has. Like,
Yeah.
whoa. So just to think that she was just gonna like fling him off, I was like, yeah, that's absolutely not happening.
Underestimating them.
And I was
Yep.
I was even really impressed with Max in that moment, and
Yeah.
her forethought to go, hey, maybe I can do this. I can pull him into, my mind, and I can escape this. I was like, that
Mm-hmm.
is really, really great. The whole piggyback situation was awesome.
It was a very one of my favorite Freddy Krueger films is the when they do the night what is it called, Nightmare Warrior, what is it called when they all have to band
The
up and
Dream
Lawrence
Warriors.
Fishburne, Dream Warrior. Yes, that whole kind of that concept of that film and them fighting against Freddy and their I thought very much similar. It's like you said, when Max thought of that plan. Again, the homages are so great in this show. But we get the moment, as you said, Vecna. I'm a big Star Wars fan, and I thought of Empire Strikes Back when Yoda told Luke, "You're not ready yet." When they were training, you're not ready to fight Vader yet. But Luke, his friends were in trouble. He went to to fight them off. He ultimately lost his hand. Found out about his father.
Mhm.
This was very much reminiscent to that, like you said, Brenner being the Yoda of the sorts, telling Elle that she wasn't ready, and she wasn't,
Yeah.
because she is playing right into his hands. They're all playing right into his hands, as we ultimately see. he gets he gets Max. They're doing the Vecna thing, and we'll get to that moment here. But I don't want to neglect, like you mentioned, Eddie MVP.
Oh,
So awesome, so great, and a lot of great stuff going on there. I guess we could just jump into it, Ira. Yeah,
uh,
Dustin and Eddie. Meanwhile, they're on the forefront. They're distracting the bats. They're getting to the RV. Eddie tells Steve in this episode, "We know we're not the heroes. You're the hero, Steve." But now he gets his hero moment. He lets the little kid. He lets Dustin go back into the reality. Cuts off the sheet. He's fighting the bats. He ultimately loses, and we get the moment. What did you think about the handling of this, graduating from being the guy that runs to being the hero? Thoughts on Eddie? Was it handled?
I knew this was coming. I knew that he was gonna have his moment to like vindicate his character and just feeling like, I'm a runner, I'm a coward, this is all I ever do. And I knew that he was gonna have his big moment to show that, I can be the hero. I can be more than what Hawkins thinks that I am. He's, especially since he's, wanted now. Like
Yeah,
I
he's
can
a
be the
murderer.
hero.
Yeah,
I can be the hero too.
yeah.
But I did not think it was gonna come at the expense of his life in the way that the Duffer brothers decided to execute it. I'm like, this is such a
Mm-hmm.
lazy cop out. And it was like they needed some hard hitting death. So they were very poignant to get us really invested in Eddie's character,
Yeah.
just to take him away. And it's just like, well, yeah, we're not going to take away any of our original cast members. We're not, going to take away Max, as we see, she's in a coma, but she is still very much, alive. And we know that, they're not going to bring us into the next season and have her die. So we know that she's going to come back. But just to have us get so invested, and I thought it was so cheap, even with and it's not like we wanted, Hopper to die, but
Yeah.
in that last season when we have like
Oh, the
Joyce,
fake out death.
we had a funeral, that
Yeah.
fake out death, just to have him in Russia, like they're like really tap dancing on my nerves with that. So I was like, this is so cheap. And even if they were going to go that route and it wasn't going to be cheap, the way they executed it to just kind of have him voluntarily go into his own death. And it's just like, yeah, I'm going to have my moment just like Steve. Remember Steve, he bit the head off, had his own Ozzy Osbourne Black Sabbath ass moment and spit the bat out. Like, yeah, I'm going to have my moment. I'm like, well, yeah, hold up. Steve had like 4 bats.
Yeah, he got fit up pretty well.
Coming at him. 4, little Vecna bats. You had like 500 bats.
A whole army of
circulating
bats.
you.
Yeah.
And it was just like, yeah, come on. I'm like, it just seemed so voluntary. Like it was like he volunteered his life up.
Yeah,
at
he
that
did.
moment.
He put his life on the line. Yeah.
And it was no reason to. Those bats were not going to change the dynamics of anything.
So my only pushback with him sacrificing, because honestly, so if he would have survived, how would he have proved that he didn't? I guess how would he? Because in my mind, if I'm Eddie, like how am I going to prove that I didn't kill this girl? How are they going to believe that this Vecna thing was going on? There's an upside down. So I think and not to say that he suicide, but I think he was like, this is my, this is me graduating. It took me 5 years. This is how I'm going to end my life. Is I'm going to sacrifice my life for the greater good. And because again, I don't think in reality, I don't know, how do you defend yourself to say you didn't kill?
But he had that whole earthquake and everything turning black. That was how you defended yourself. I knew that was going to happen because Vecna has, told us his plan a billion times. Like this is just the beginning. You killing me is only, a pebble in the lake. Like this is going to really explode. So I thought that we were going to have Vecna survived. Not Vecna. I thought even though I knew that he was still there, because I was like, if he's, he's been all these entities this entire time, that form that he's taken on that body, that's nothing. But I thought that we were going to have everybody have the revelation of, oh, this hasn't been some cult. It hasn't been Eddie. It's been something in Hawkins this entire time, and this earthquake and everything, because it's going to totally be a freaking battle.
Yeah, season 5. If Hawkins residents aren't realizing there's supernatural, elseworld dimensions, then they're all idiots at that point.
Yeah,
like it's global warming. Yeah.
I thought Eddie was gonna have his big moment to go, like, you see, and everybody who has just been in disbelief this entire time. Like,
Yeah.
and that's 80s, horror again,
Yeah.
because you
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
have the parents, the adults always just be,
Parents just
oh,
don't
like, oh,
understand.
we're just watching TV. Oh,
Yep.
the world is
It's the
ending.
weed.
Oh,
Those the kids in that marijuana make
like,
up
oh, it's
anything.
snow. They're always so oblivious. And I thought that this was going to be like, holy shit,
Eye
there's been
opening.
something under our town this entire time. And we're going to have, everybody just kind of gear up and, Eddie all will be forgotten. That's what I thought.
Well, and again, who knows? Maybe season, like you said, in season 5, maybe they'll realize, like, okay, there is a otherworldly beings in this town. It's almost to this whole town. And again, I know the Duffer Brothers takes a lot of inspiration from Stephen King, and I think of it, and I think of that whole town. Like the parents of
Maine.
that town, like had a spell over them when they just like ignored Pennywise. So I don't know if that's a similar. I'm a Buffy fan too. If it's a similar like kind of spell or trance over the town where they just kind of suppress those things,
Mhm.
because Hawkins has been haunted, cursed since Henry moved there in the 50s, whatever. So I wonder if that's going to be a big revelation that the town is somewhat aware of it, but just chooses to neglect it, or we'll see what
Yeah.
comes of all that. But even though I know you said it felt kind of cheap, you got to admit it was emotional, especially because I get emotional when I see little kids crying, and I thought Dustin and as well as Lucas, well, they're not little kids, but younger adults. When Dustin, he sold me in that moment because he's crying on Eddie, and the speech of grow, graduate. I did it. I saved, and all that. It got to me. It really did get to me. That was an emotional moment. Bob was number one for me for a while because I really didn't invest myself in Bob's character. I love people love Barb, but we didn't really get to spend that much time with Barb. Justice for Barb
Yeah.
and all that stuff. And Billy was an evil person. I didn't really care when he died.
Yes.
I mean, I cared, but I didn't like it. Didn't break my heart. This one did. This one got to me a lot.
Yes.
Any final thoughts on Eddie Munson for you, Tyra, as far as his
Yeah,
death goes?
it's an unfortunate, and I'm really gonna miss him. I really did like what he brought to the show, his energy, and
Yeah.
I was like, out of all the characters that they introduced who were new, as soon as Eddie hit the screen, which was, suckered us in, I loved him right away. But
Yeah.
it's cool. But hey, he finally graduated, and it's
He got his
over.
moment. He got his moment. Shout out to and I doubt that they'll do this for season 5. Like, give us another Eddie, like give us a new character just to take away because it's the end of the season. But
Yeah.
he was a great character, a great introduction, rookie of the year. He's getting that award. But follow that up with Max. We talked about she did die. She technically did die. Her heart stopped. Vecna broke broke her arms, broke her
Yeah.
legs. And while all that's going on, our team finally, Elle gets that speech from her boyfriend Mike. He talks her up, says she's the hero. She's able to take out Vecna, but as you said, he says you've already lost, and they do lose, even though they. This is a pretty awesome moment. I'm not gonna lie. The score was hidden
Yes.
at this point when they're taking down Vecna and fighting him and
Oh
Nancy with
yeah.
that shotgun. Man, I'm a big Terminator fan. She was Sarah Connor, Ripley from
Ooh.
Aliens. Man, Nancy is a G. I love Nancy. And Robin gets her moment, throw the Montel cocktail. Steve comes in. All
Yeah.
that stuff is working. But then again, we have that high epic moments, and then we come back down to Max's death. Again, we kind of alluded to it, but if there's anything else you want to add to the execution of the acting between Caleb and Sadie in that moment when he's, as we talked about earlier, Max, come on, Max, don't do this, Max. Your thoughts on Max's? Again, she did technically die. She's brought
Yes.
back, but how did you feel that was executed?
I thought it was executed so well. The only thing that I was indifferent about was her actually not completely dying. And
Yeah.
after I guess it was fine because I wasn't, of course, expecting Eddie to go in that way. So it's like, yeah, don't stab us twice. So I was,
Yeah.
I was glad that she did come back. But it would have been like totally like really epic, and we would have actually lost, one of our gang. Like, man, talk about like momentum and drive to really fuck up the upside down. Like,
Yeah.
what more do you need? I thought that was going to be a catalyst for us to come through with the guns next season.
Yeah.
But I am very interested to see where she is and when, because it's not like, oh, this is normal, and
Yeah.
she died and she came back. This is Elle, and I'm like, is she going to come back with some kind of, I know she's going to come back
Abilities.
different ability, some type
She
of
was risen.
power,
I
like,
mean, what does that mean for Elle to bring someone back? Like,
yeah.
again, horror references to Evil Dead or a Pet
Mhm.
Cemetery. Like, she brought her back to life there. When you do
Oh,
something like that in horror genre, that you don't come back normal. So I wonder,
yeah,
Vecna, New Vessel, and Max.
yeah. Oh man, that would be dope.
That would be
Can't hurt
crazy.
Max.
Yeah, because the thing too, like you mentioned, to not kill her, it almost feels worse. The position that she's in, she can't speak,
Mm,
she can't talk, she's in a coma, she can't walk. So it's almost like almost I don't say as worse as death, but it's pretty high up there as far as where they left her. But speaking of
yeah.
left, we got people out of the town finally leaving.
Getting the hell
Like,
out of
that's the
here.
smartest thing you all can do, because at this point, as we talked about, the 4 clocks, the 4 death, she ultimately does die, even though it's 1 minute. The prophecy comes true. They destroy Hawkins, and we got our Vicky and Robin moment. Season 5 predictions. However, are these two going to be together? Are they going to be close friends? What do you think is going to come of this relationship?
Think Robin's gonna get with Molly Ringwald and she's gonna come around. I think it's gonna happen. I think it's gonna happen. She has that little Molly Ringwald haircut.
She
She just
does.
looks like 16 candles to me.
She
But yeah,
does.
I think she's gonna come around. I was
That's
glad that
funny.
even though at moments I was like, can y'all come on? Like, is she gonna get a girlfriend or not? Like, let's go.
Yeah.
Even more reason why I was kind of indifferent about Will's situation, because I'm like,
Yeah.
we not that we have some LGBTQ quota to meet or anything, because the
Yeah.
dynamics are fine, but
Mhm.
just if we wanted to have somebody have that inner conflict, we already have that with her. So
With
to have
Robin.
it
Yeah.
again with him, it was just like, okay, this is enough.
Yeah.
But we could, I think a lot of our time in the story, we would prefer that it be invested, somewhere else. But I was glad that at least somebody got something, because Steve forever is getting
Solo
nothing.
dolo. My man Steve is on a journey of self discovery, finding his inner self, finding that family he's seeking, them 6 kids that he wants. But before moving on, I guess because we really didn't talk about Robin. Are you a fan of Robin, Maya Hawke's portrayal? Do you like that
um,
character?
I love Robin.
Yeah,
I
I
love Robin.
mean,
I think the most shine she got is when we got our silence of the lambs moment, and they went
oh
to
yeah,
try to
and they
talk,
went
and
there.
she Nancy's like, I got this. You just stay over there and not say
Yeah, yeah,
anything. She's like, no, I got this.
I got
I
this.
love
Yeah.
that moment with her.
There was moments because I'm a fan of Maya Hawke and her parents. I mean, I love Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman. I mean, that's just great actors, and they birthed is another great generation here. But yeah, I like Robin a lot. And I know there was a lot of theories that people thought, especially from the trailer, where she says in the episode that I don't think we're all going to make it.
Yeah.
I thought that Robin was going to be, especially when they had her, Nancy, and Steve up on the wall. I thought Nancy was going to have to choose who to save between Robin
Oh,
and Steve when they were all held up. But obviously,
oh.
she got held up
You know,
too.
it was
But
gonna be
I'm a
Steve.
Robin fan. That would, yeah, I think it would have been an easy choice there, unless Steve would have convinced her, like, no, save
No,
her,
save
fight the
her.
fight. Yeah, but I'm glad they didn't do that. That would have been tough to take them out. And I thought the Duffers were going to troll us. I thought they were going to kill Steve, because you know it from social media. They put in California, there's a poster or a billboard of protect Steve, and they said they
Oh,
weren't going to kill him because he's a fan favorite. I thought they were going to take him out. But are you happy that
mm.
Steve survived,
Love
even though
Steve.
he doesn't have
I
anyone to
I
love?
love Steve, especially, and it's kind of bad because I love Steve more now because of kind of what they've done with Jonathan's character. It's made me
Yeah,
gravitate more towards Steve, and especially just
100%.
I think he's had one of the best journeys in the show, from him being just that straight a-hole in that first season all the way to us absolutely loving him. That's a
Yep.
really good transition.
I agree. I think he 100% agree with you. It's not to the levels of Cersei, or not Cersei, but Jamie Lannister, if you're a Game of Thrones fan, to where
Mhm.
he started off as such a terrible character, and as the seasons went on, you became to love him. Steve never was that bad, and he never
Yeah.
slept with a sibling, but he was the character that we hated for that first season. The 180 for that character has been fantastic. So I'm excited to see more of Joe Curry in this role, and what they do with Steve. But wrapping up the episode again, the world or Hawkins has been destroyed. Another moment they destroyed me. I don't know how you felt about Dustin telling Mr. Munson, his uncle, he died a hero. He said he obviously couldn't say, he died in Upside Down, and how he said, but he
Yeah.
said he died in a hurricane, or the earthquakes, and he died saving our lives and saving the world. What did you think about that moment? Was that a moment that hit you?
It did. It really, the whole everything hit me. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah,
had like it was a little water just right here. It didn't drop. It was just like no, no. Like this is a tea. It's a teething. Wait, don't cry. But it was a
yeah,
little water. It kind of built up because
yep,
you really love that, and it's incredible because we got like maybe this much time with Mr. Munson, but you could
right,
tell that he really had love for him,
yeah.
and no
His
matter what
nephew.
anybody said, he's like,
Yep,
I know who
he knew who
he
he
is. You
was.
guys are
Yep,
placing judgment on somebody you don't know. He's
yep,
never been a killer. He's never going to do this. And
yep,
even, in that moment, he's on the news as like some freaking killer. It's
yeah.
like, yeah, I'm going to put these flyers up and I'm going to
Let
find him.
people
He,
know.
he never lost hope. But just to know that he's not going to be there with him anymore, I was like, yeah, Dusty, make a friend. Like, make sure you go check on him and,
Yep,
go see how he's doing.
yep, 100%. I love that they got that moment because, again, Barb was a character that a lot of for a long time her parents had that hope that she was still out there, still alive. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that they allowed that Dustin had that moment, a mature moment to let him know that he did die, and obviously putting a little spin to it. But wrapping it up again, speaking of death, I love the reunions here. And again, right now Max is MIA as far as we don't know what to come of her. Max is a miracle; she survived. Elle brought her up, but again, we get more emotions. We talked about it a little bit earlier, but just to kind of hit it on the head now, the two papa and daughter here, did that moment work for you
Yes.
too, as far as Hopper, hey kid, and I left the door open 3 inches for you, I never lost
Yeah.
hope? Did that
Yeah.
work for you?
I loved it, especially since I was so hot at Joy not telling the kids right away that that
Yeah,
he was still
yeah,
alive.
yeah,
But
Joyce, I can't
yeah,
get over that.
I
Yep.
loved it. I think
Yep.
we had all been, but despite everything, we were really waiting the most for them to come back together. Any reunion that we were like, oh, I'm waiting on that. I really was anticipating that for Elle, and I'm glad we
Yeah,
got that.
same here. I love that moment. But it ends on a very dark, anonymous note. Mike and Will having a conversation. What's to come? And he's now been gone from Hawkins for a while. Now he's back, and now with him being back, he has his spidey senses are tingling. Tyra, he feels Vecna. He says he's not dead. He's only hurt. He's gonna come back. He's gonna come back stronger, maybe in a new body, and he's gonna
Yeah.
come back for vengeance. And as we wrap up the episode, L and the whole crew looking out in Hawkins, and surprise, surprise, everyone, Hawkins is now the new home of the
Mm.
Upside Down. Your thoughts on this ending, and then transitioning to what do you suspect season 5 to be diving into? Because apparently it's going to be a time jump. Are we going to be 6 months, 5 years into this new reformed, transformed version of the Upside Down? How do you think all that's going to shake up with that?
I'm hoping we jump a bit because I kept getting distracted with the kids and how much older they look. I was like, man, they look so like we
They're
can't,
adults.
even with
Yep.
all the de-aging that they did on Eleven's character in the show, and she looked like she kind of looked like the splice thing to me for some reason.
That, and also, if you ever seen Logan, she reminded me of the well, not Logan, but when Logan was
Yeah.
de-aging, it was like very not
Yes.
cartoony, but the CGI was like very uncanny
Yeah.
valley. Yeah,
Yeah, but I'm hoping that we do have a little bit more time go by and we just see Hawkins like kind of engulfed in the upside down and them just kind of gearing up to. I just want to know what that looks like now and
yeah,
what it like. What does that even look like? Because it's been the upside down for so long. So just
yeah,
to see like, because it's a matter of time. Even in that those few seconds we saw it, it was like spreading like wildflower in the flowers. Everything was dying.
yep.
So it's
Everything's
only
dying.
just a
Yep.
matter of minutes before it engulfs the entire place. So I think we're going to be looking forward to standoff, but hopefully I hope that standoff is much later and maybe we can at least go a couple of years. Maybe a year, maybe.
It's gonna be tough because, like you said, these kids, they're all 19, 18,
Yeah,
19. They're sophomores in high school or freshmen still by the end of the
yeah,
season.
freshman.
So yeah, they need to age them up for sure. But I don't want to lose any of that off-screen development. Like I would, to your point, I would like to see a dystopian Hawkins, but I hope there's not like a bunch of off-screen stuff that happened. A character dies,
Mhm.
all this stuff. I hope we get that moment of where that transformation happens. But it's going to be really interesting to see how far ahead we're going to jump into season 5. But well, final little comments here. I guess what was things that really didn't work for you, and then we'll wrap up with like standout moments, standout characters. But what was it in this new season that really irked your nerves as far as like, man, I hate that they did that, or they didn't execute it the way I wanted to? Just your things that didn't work for you in this
Uh,
season 4.
the things that didn't work for me were mostly our Scooby Doo gang that was in the pizza truck together. Their whole plot, and I do mean
Yeah,
every single character, that didn't really work a whole lot for me. I think it was executed really poorly in how they
yeah,
just even handled the characters in their story. And I really didn't like Joy and how she handled, leaving and going off. And I didn't think we were going to stay
that was a
in
head
Russia.
scratcher.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I didn't think we were going to stay in Russia for as long as we did, or even some of the things with the lieutenant and his unstoppableness as far as Elle needing to die and her being the gist of every single thing that's happened in
yeah,
Hawk. It was like, come on.
a little bit of a
But
stretch. Yeah,
but yeah, his whole kind of, because I think we kind of got moments with him torturing someone, and I guess we can kind of look forward to him doing that in the future, and just like, oh, we're taking her down. And
yeah,
I don't really I didn't really invest too much in him as a character. But outside of that, in the very, very long last 2 episodes, mostly everything worked here for me. And
yeah.
I really enjoyed the season overall. The I wanted more in the last 2 episodes as far as execution, but it didn't
Yeah.
take away the good time I had within the
Overall,
show.
yeah, the
Yeah.
positives outweigh the negative. I agree with you. And as far as I'm right there with you. As far as negatives, the California crew was so wasted. Mike has become just relegated to a supporting character. Will, his brother Jonathan, is just a furniture piece. He's just there to drive
Yeah.
and smoke weed. And then Argyle, again, the comic relief, worked at first, but it got old, as we talked about a little bit as the season went on. And the only thing about California was obviously Elle, her
Mhm.
discovery, her regaining her powers, her having that closure with Papa. That's, I guess, I don't want to say saved, but that was like the only good thing about that was Elle's self discovery. Her getting bullied at the beginning, her finding out what happened with Vecna and her connections to Peter and Henry and all that stuff. So that worked in the California stuff, but all that other stuff didn't work for me.
No.
And then Russia, like you said, Joyce, I'll never forgive her for doing that. At least tell the kids what you're doing. That is just so
Yeah.
silly to me, as because he was such a like, I'm gonna save Will. The kids are number one. They have to be our priority. To then be like, all right, guys, I'll be back. I'm going to the grocery store for a week. It was weird. It was weird. But Russia, again, we talked about it. Murray, Hawk, or and Hopper. That stuff worked for me. But then transition to what really did work and at standout moments, all the stuff in Hawkins. We talked about Max's progression, Emmy-worthy nomination for me as far as her performance. Luke is getting some time to shine. Nancy being like you said, a mixture of Nancy Drew and Nancy from the Friday, or not Friday 13th, but the Nightmare on Elm
Nightmare
Street
Before Christmas.
franchise. That stuff worked for me. I'm a big Steve fan. All the Hawkins stuff. Like, I don't think there was not one point in which we talked about Jason being annoying, but in a good way as far as his character.
Yeah.
I don't think that nothing in Hawkins annoyed me. I loved Hawkins to the core. And as far as characters, Max, Lucas, and then Vecna. Those characters to me were like the highlights. So
Yeah.
any thoughts on your standout moments or characters that really just stood out to you?
Pretty much same here. I absolutely love me some Eddie. R.I.P. Eddie.
R.I.P.
I
R.I.P.
love that whole fugitive aspect that we got into with him in hiding, and the gang coming together. I even really love the moment that we got with Lucas and just kind of trying to decide, hey, which team is he going to be on? Is he going to sell
Cool
out the
kid or
family?
no?
Right?
Yeah, yep.
Here we are. And
Lucas
just
was
to
so
have
great.
him that running moment, he hops the stairs like, nah, I ain't selling out nobody. I led out to the wrong place. I absolutely love that. I
Yep.
love the, nice Chianti and fava beans, them going down to, Vecna's backstory. And we got that really great appearance from Robert England. I love that.
So great. Yep.
Right. Max, that's just going down in history as one of my favorite moments from the whole franchise. Like, Max, and is he or is he going to capture her? And, we're
Mm-hmm.
running up that hill. I
They're
love
really.
that.
Yep. Yep.
And especially the more emotional scenes that we got in the end, like
Yeah.
Lucas and Max, like, oh, those were just really great performances, and I like that. And that whole Ghost Rider situation that we got with Vecna and him running towards the camera and he's on fire, I love that. I absolutely love that. There were a lot of moments here, and definitely a lot to outweigh anything that we didn't like so much.
Yep. I 1000% agree with you. And on that note, if you were to rank the 4 seasons of Stranger Things, how does that list look for you?
Number one, season one is always going
Season
to
one
be,
still top
season
tier.
one.
Okay. Okay.
Definitely top tier. I would say season two. Well, no, because it was just so much here. This I
Yeah.
think this would be number two because it's
Okay.
just so
So four,
conflicting.
number two.
This
Okay.
would this would definitely be number two. Then season two would be number three, and then of course season three would be the last one
Your
for
last
me.
one. So actually, I shared my as we're pre-recording this video. I shared my little rankings on my social media accounts, but I have a very almost identical list to yours. Number 4 for me is season 3, and I like season 3. I actually revisited all the seasons before this new season, and I like season 3. It just
Yeah,
the Russia stuff. Alexei, I liked him. You know that was a sad death, but some of that Russia stuff was too goofy to me. It was really
yeah,
goofy. And Murray was really involved in that season. I like Murray, but he was a little bit too over the top for me. Um, and then Mike too, like him being so obsessed with losing L and the whole boyfriend, girlfriend, teenage
yeah,
ants stuff. It was just a little bit weird. But that's my least favorite season, but still rewatchable, still fun. The whole mall nostalgia stuff. Then number 3 is season 2, like you mentioned, the Halloween stuff, the
yeah.
Bob, the
Oh,
Billies, the Ghostbuster references,
yes,
all that stuff to me was just fantastic. Even though it does have the worst episode of this entire series, episode 7 with Callie, and when Elle went out and did the whole
yeah.
that is the worst episode of this show to
Hey,
me still
Callie
today.
might come back now. She
They're gonna
gonna
need
need
all the
some
help they
help.
need. They're gonna need all the help they need. So, but that was yeah, I still am a fan of season 2 and the whole Will, and that's when Will really got a time to shine when he was possessed and evil. That and Joyce, you're not gonna that stuff to work to me. But I'm gonna surprise you here, Tyra. My number 2 is season 1. And in number, yeah, I'm gonna. Season 4 has taken the crown, but season 1, obviously, if they ended
Oh,
Stranger Things after season 1, it can stand alone. They didn't even need to. They didn't even have to finish it. The way that it's
yeah,
such a great season. Only reason I'm giving season 4, and it's not recency biasy, but I think season 4, to me, as you mentioned earlier, the progression of these kids becoming like adults, the performances to me were stronger in this season. Again, Max, Lucas, L, I thought their elevation and their performances really kind of stood out to me. Plus, as we talked about a lot of times in the stream, I'm a horror fan. I love
yeah,
horror. And Vecna to me makes season 4 just elevates it to just a slight, and it's not like season 1 is here, season 4 it's very close, but Vecna was that deciding factor to me because when we first met him, I will never get over episode 1 with the I didn't expect him to go to the levels of the body gore or the body horror.
yeah,
That to me gives it just a slight edge over season 1's. But
yeah.
I think overall we can admit this is still one of the best shows on TV as far as
Mhm.
streaming services go, and it's easily the flagship thing that's keeping Netflix alive because everything else they cancel in like 2 days. So
Yeah.
season 5, we'll see. 2024. Are you thinking two
Oh,
years or less?
probably so. I'm hoping it's no more
Yeah,
than two. Like, don't make us
yeah.
wait 3.
I think they said it's going to be because it was a 3 year gap. They said it will be they'll be back sooner than that. But I think unfortunately with these actors now being bigger, Millie Bobby Brown
Yeah.
probably going to be in the MCU in any day now. Finn Wolfhard's directing movies now. Caleb's doing stuff, so they're
Yes.
rightfully so. They're busy, and you want get that bag. But I think 2024 will be the earliest we can expect season 5.
Okay.
We'll see. Fingers
We'll
crossed.
be
But
waiting.
we'll be waiting. We'll be, in the upside down waiting for our crew to come back. But Tyra, this has been so fun. I'm so glad I was able to chat with you about this finale, this show, the characters, all the stuff that we liked, didn't like. It was such a fun time.
Yes.
Again, before we head out, if you want to let the people know where they can find you and what's next that they can expect from your content.
Oh man, more skits, more fun. Be sure to go follow me on Instagram. I always have a good time on there. You can always get a good prelude of what I have coming up and movies and shows to come. I just recently posted, I discussed it, the Black Phone. I would really love to hear you guys' thoughts on the Black Phone because the Black Phone is getting rave reviews, and I was like, huh. But that's also there. And I just talked about the new movie Beauty that's available on Netflix, and that's there. And I also discussed P Valley. It's just everything is there. Like, stop waiting and just come over and see what's going on because I guarantee you're gonna stay.
100% agree with you. As you all can see on the screen now, check out her channel, check out her review, check out her channel. As you all can see on the screen now, check out her links, her cash apps. If you want her to do a retro review, definitely show her some love and support, because she is just awesome. And I'm so glad to be able to talk to her about this show, and hopefully more conversations in the future with other shows or movies that we're fans of, especially horror. Especially, you know, we got Nope coming out next, or this month, I should say, in a couple weeks.
Oh,
I don't know if you're a Jordan Peele fan, but I'm really high on that one.
yes.
Yeah, I'm
That's
looking
like
forward to it.
top on my list for next month. I don't care
Okay.
what's going on.
Well,
I'm going to see that movie.
we might have to have another conversation in the future to talk. Hopefully, it's Sixth Atlantic, because I'm really excited for that. But hey, guys, again, thank you for watching this discussion, this video. Really appreciate it. Again, before you leave, thumbs up, share, leave your thoughts in the comments, subscribe to Struggle Reviews, all that good stuff. Hope you're having a great weekend, 4th of July, all that fun stuff, and we'll catch you all on the next video. Take care, everybody.